minute early. I'm a minute early, but that's okay, I think. Hoping that you're all doing well, and that you're having a good Saturday so far. If you're here, say hi in the chat. That would be great. And let's see, it's 8 o'clock here in London. And yeah, so we start these things out just kind of chatting and saying hi. And and then I sort of, so here's the menu, right? Here's the menu. I mean, I shouldn't even say this yet because it's not actually 8 o'clock for me. Well, it just turned to 8 o'clock. Um, so yeah, so we talk a little bit, and then I start looking at stuff. I start looking at quilt stuff, and you can look with me. And so far, it's been so fun to do this that I just want to do it all the time. Um, it's people have asked me, like, why Twitch and not YouTube, and the reason for Twitch and not YouTube is because YouTube is like old news. Hey, Bib Palumbo. It's so good. My Saturday is so good. It's better now because I'm streaming and I love streaming. I really do. And so, the reason for Twitch and not YouTube is because, I don't know. I mean, I feel like YouTube is so, it's YouTube. There's so much content there. We've all been there before. Hey, Carol. Oh, gee. Thank you for coming. So I'm doing the intro, I'm doing the business at the top. My people who have been here so far consistently, I should send you all a fruit basket. When I'm back in the States, I'll send you something. I really will. So YouTube is sort of full of content, and it's getting more full of content all the time. And Twitch is new. Hey, so Kate. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you got to go back and watch the fashion episode that we did last time. And I've got a little something about fashion tonight too, queued up just a little bit. It's good to see you. So Twitch, has been this platform for gamers, video game people, for since, I don't know, like 2012. Is that right? I don't know. When I looked and saw that Twitch had been around that long, I was like, okay, because I kind of thought it was like, a little bit newer than that, but no. I'm not in the gaming community. Why would I know that, right? So Twitch was new for me, and Twitch is probably new for you. Amazon bought Twitch at some point because, of course, they did. And so, as many of you know, you use your Amazon account to log in. So it's not like some obscure, weird thing. It's, Amazon. So when I was looking at Twitch, I learned it's a live streaming platform. That's what it's for. And YouTube does live streaming, but YouTube also does videos. And I don't know, I just thought, like, let's shake it up a little bit. And I was talking to Mike McCormick at Quilt Folk, and he was like, yeah, like, if you do YouTube stuff, all your old videos are there. Like Twitch is like brand new, So he was like, nice. That's good, because Mike's real smart. So if he liked it, that's good. So yeah, so I was like, I think I want to do Twitch live streaming. And what I want to do is share my screen, as you can see it now, right? I'm like in the corner, and the chat's over there, and my browser is up. What I do a lot when I'm researching for a lecture or I'm researching for the documentary, I'm looking at quilt stuff. I'm going down the quilt rabbit hole. I'm looking at websites. I'm looking at pictures, looking through my archive, my own files, right, to go through scans of things and whatnot. And I don't want to wait to share that stuff with you. And if I'm curious with you, then you get to share in that. And the only thing I like better than being, than going on my curiosity, journey, my journey, is sharing what I found. And so this way I get to do that. And, there's 90 subscribers, which is totally cool. Thank you all for subscribing. If you do subscribe to my channel, which is just like clicking a button, you get a notification. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. You get a notification when I go live. And right now, that might be good because I've been doing every week streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. my time. Yeah, which is 11 a.m. Central. And like that's the weekday and it's at 11 a.m. And so I had to pick something like kind of an anchor time to start this out. I wanted people to be able to drop in and see like, yes, this is what's happening. Yes, it's amazing. It's so fun. And then sort of, figure out, from there, like, is that a good time for people? It may not be. So that's why, I'm going to sneeze. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it won't go. God. I can't sneeze. It's the terrible feeling. So I'm trying out different times during the week to see what might be even better, right? What might work better for other people. The time difference between the States and London, it's pretty brutal. Like Portland, Oregon, I talk to people in Portland, Oregon a lot because of Quilt Folk. And, it's 8 hours. It's 8 hours. That's a long time to have a different schedule. It's a different schedule, like by a lot. Just think like when it's 8 a.m. there. Oh God, it's 8 p.m. I don't know. Okay, it's late. It's later. Like at 4 a.m. They're just like going to lunch or something like that. So it's kind of rough. But it's Saturday night for me. It's 8 o'clock p.m., which means it's 2 p.m. Central Time. So hopefully some people who haven't come by yet to see what this is all about will come by, drop in, check it out, and come back, right? And I'm trying out these different times to see like, what works. So hopefully it works for you. I can do this on Saturday night. I'm 42. I'm not going out. Actually, that's not true. I still go out. I still have my fun, but I like this and it's really fun. So I'm cool with this being like a Saturday night gig, So yeah, there's a chat box. It loves you. You love it. The idea with this is to get lots of folks, lots of people here, because what this does for me is that it helps expand the conversation, because you all will ask questions and you all will know things that I don't know. You can prompt me to look for something else, to seek out another, piece of the story, right, that I might not know of, whatever we're looking at any given day. And so that helps me a lot. And hopefully what it does for you as we go down the rabbit hole, right, as we go out into the weeds, as someone said the other day, you might be inspired. You probably will be. So far, I think the inspiration meter is like over here, because no matter what I find, and you'll see what I mean in just a little bit when I start the engine of research and curiosity, you'll see things that kind of blow your mind. The quilt world is pretty extraordinary, and it extends far beyond the quilt world as we know it, by which I mean like, our beloved quilt shops and our patterns and our favorite designers and all of that, the fabric lines and quilt market and quilt shows. All of that is so important, and it's why I'm here, right? But there's more past all that, culturally, and in the art world, in the fashion world, in the world, in this world of cinema. We're gonna see that tonight. So looking at all that, to me, makes quilts more important than they were. Anyway, and they were pretty important already. Just being in that quilt bubble, they're important. But this stuff is cool. So what do I mean by this stuff? Let's talk about it. Let's look at it. Before I do, I want to show you that I'm working on a quilt. I'm quilting a quilt right now, hand quilting it. But I I made a new thing. I hand pieced that little guy today. I was out all morning and I was doing errands and things. And I don't have a sewing machine here yet. I just don't. See, Carol says these live streams, they give her a whole new list of things to Google, and it's something she entertains herself with. Same. So here's my little, it's my 6-point star, and I mean, it's hand piece, so I'm doing set and stuff. And what I'm going to do, okay, I don't have much fabric, but the London Modern Quilt Guild gave me a bunch of fabric. It was amazing. Like, they're amazing. Thank you. If I haven't thanked you enough, I thank you again. And so a lot of what I have comes from them. I bought a little bit of fabric, but I'm thinking reclaiming fabric, going to thrift stores and things is actually what I want to do for a while. But anyway, so I hand pieced that. That's exciting. And while I did, I watched The Irishman, the Scorsese movie that's like 4 hours long. It was really good. I could watch those boys do anything. De Niro and Joe Pesci, and I mean, Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. I mean, they're so great. They're so great. I love Scorsese. So anyway, so I was working on that. So now I'm gonna add in, my setting pieces, I guess you could say. And my goal, I want to make a black quilt. I mean, I want to make it. I bought some black solid. I want to do really scrappy stars, and then a lot of black in the background, because I always love those quilts, the darker ones. But I've never made one that's really got sort of a black setting fabric. So it'll be a little bit scrappy. I only have some of this, but if it's scrappy, I'm happy. That's what they say. Okay, so let me do one thing here. Let's see. Gotta do this. How is everybody doing? I have chips. I have chips, and I have wine. I do have wine. I mean, it's 8 p.m., It's 8 p.m. And so, so I've got a glass of wine. I mean, what do you want from me? It's 8 p.m. But I want to show you, I want to explain the wine glass, okay? So we came to London with very little, with the clothes on our backs. I mean, sort of, like, we didn't know how long we would be here and whatever. So when we got here, I had to buy like a can opener, and wine glasses. I mean, obviously. And so I like to buy nice things, but I don't pay full price. No. I get things on sale, preferably on clearance. Oh, you have to go away. And so I went to Harrods.com. If you know London, Harrods. It's like really nice, It's like a whole city block, in London. Huge department store. So I go to their clearance section, to see if there's some wine glasses that I could buy that are really beautiful, but not, they're on clearance, because expensive wine glasses from Harrods are like really expensive. So I found a pair of wine glasses, and I got them, and they looked normal, but when they arrived, they are so beautiful. There's just two, and I think they're the kind of wine glasses I'm going to show you, that really, really wealthy people, like they have a different size and shape of wine glass for all the different wines, which is like extremely annoying and really great if you ever get to, drink like a Viognier or whatever out of like the Viognier glass, whatever. It's great. I don't live that life. I just don't. So I ordered this. I don't even know if you can tell like how big this is. Can you tell? It's not normal. It's enormous, right? So it's as big as my head. It's like a fishbowl. So I think, and I read on the thing, it's like perfect for this particular kind of wine, which, I have no idea. So Eric laughed and laughed at me, and I poured some wine. I'm sure that that's too much. I don't know. I have some chips. We like chips around here. So I got wine, I got chips. If it's 2 p.m. Central Time, I don't know. You can have wine if you want. I don't know what you have to do for the rest of the day. If you have time, if you have wine, my name's Paul. It's between y'all. Okay. So last time we were on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, I think. We looked at quilts and fashion. And Kate, you mentioned that you are going to go and watch the playback on the Twitch channel. You can watch all of the streams. The streams record. And so you can watch them, but only for 60 days. For 60 days. So you got to watch them. I'm thinking that I might upload them to YouTube. I don't know. They don't love that when you do that. And I want people to come here and watch live, watch the streams live. But I also want people just to know about it. When I post that I'm going live on Twitch on Instagram, like when I do a little post about it, I don't think it goes into the algorithm very much because I don't know. I just don't think they like that. So either no one cares about this, which it's okay. It's okay. It's new. I'm just starting out. It's okay. Either no one cares or no one's really seeing it. It could be the latter. It could be. I'm hoping it's the latter. But the channel's growing. Every stream. Oh yeah. Oh, about Kirsten. That's great. I'm so glad you're here. Awesome. Wait till we get into the content. I mean, forget about it. You are in for a treat. And Kate, oh yeah. Okay. So Kate says, I like the idea of an email address or YouTube comments because you can't add comments later on Twitch, I don't think. Correct. I don't think so either. So uploading that to YouTube would be good, wouldn't it? At least for now, right? Because people are more familiar with YouTube. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah, okay. So I'll download the videos that I've done. I'll upload them to YouTube. People will get the message and then they'll come over here for the live show. I think that's good. And Bip Palumbo says she has peanut crackers, popcorn, and sparkling water. I'm into it. Approved. It's approved. So let's see. Okay. Big wine glass, chips. Talked about YouTube. Yeah, last time we talked about quilts and fashion. And it was so fun. We watched great stuff. We watched some videos. We looked at a lot of images. There's more to say about quilts and fashion. And it's a topic that frankly will come up a fair amount because I'm researching for a lecture at QuiltCon in 2022. I also just really like that topic. I find it very interesting. So we really focused the discussion last time on quilts and fashion. And we're moving on tonight to something new. But I have a couple things, just a couple videos I found on YouTube of people making making coats out of quilts. And one of the things we talked about last time was that I had this revelation at some point, which was that every person who makes a jacket or whatever out of a quilt, using a quilt as the material for the jacket, everybody says the same thing, which is that, well, I found this quilt at a thrift store and it was really beat up and it had just lived its life, and I just thought, oh my God. But I was, thinking about these garments, looking at these garments, and I'm like, wait a minute. To make a jacket, to make a garment out of, unless it's like a baby's jacket or something, you have to have a lot of material to cut out those pattern pieces. I'm not a garment maker at all. But come on, I've seen pattern pieces before, especially for a long jacket. You need some girth, to the material that you're using. And so I was like, I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true that these quilts are beat up, because the jackets that they make out of these quilts are lovely. They're not threadbare. They're not busted. You can't sell a quilt jacket for $800 if it's falling apart, right? So I was like, no. these are nice quilts. These are very, very nice ones. I mean, that they're cutting up. Anyway, so go back and watch last time. Lots of, yeah, it was really fun. It was like my favorite stream so far. So we're not going to go back to fashion except for just a minute. On the menu tonight, I'm gonna, okay, let me see. I showed you the star, my little hand-pieced star that I'm working on, or my quilt that I'm working on. I did the intro, talked about what this is and why you should come. The more people that are here, the more robust the conversation is. I want you to be here and chat and throw your ideas in, throw your opinions in. That's why I want to do this. Otherwise, I'm just by myself doing this stuff. So you're a huge part of this. Yeah, okay, so intro, patchwork, quilt coat video. And then we're going to look at first dibs. We're going to look at the quilts right now that are on this website. This is an auction, like a fancy, high-priced auction site, okay? I mean, some of the things that they have on this auction site are, I mean, I don't know, 6 figures, I don't know, but like they sell like, you know, Chippendale furniture, you know, and like mid-century modern Eames chairs that are, you know, have never been touched. I mean, you've really got like high ticket items in this first dibs warehouse auction thing. And they have quilts, right? They have quilts because of course I'm always looking for them outside of the quilt world that we know. And so I haven't looked at first dibs for a while, and I thought, that would be fun. Let's look at what first dibs has in their inventory right now in terms of quilts, okay? So we're going to do that. We're going to look at a couple quilt coat videos, at least part of them. Then we're going to look at first dibs. And then I think we're going to watch some of Common Threads, the documentary about the AIDS quilt. It's one of them. So we'll talk about, sorry, I just want to make sure that's loading. So we'll talk a little bit about the AIDS quilt. Now this movie is like an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. So I doubt we're gonna watch it all. I don't think we will. These streams, by the way, if you haven't seen them before, if you haven't been here before, welcome. And it's a couple hours. That's kind of how live streams go. At least the ones that I've checked out, the ones that I've tuned into, there are zero quilt research, quilt nerd live streams, except this one. This is it. I've cornered the market. I don't know. So I don't know. There's no model for how long these should be. I guess I'm like setting the precedent. But to chat with you, talk with you, look at this stuff, discuss it, pause, react to it, and so forth, you know, it takes time. It takes time. So it's a couple hours. And you can tune in, you can leave, you can come back, all that stuff. I'm just glad you're here. And tell your friends, because that's how we're going to get more people in here. If Instagram doesn't show my video that I post, you know, about Twitch, will it even happen? I don't know. I've cornered the market. Thank you, Kirsten. Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so here's just a couple things, because we watched one girl making a quilt coat on video, but I found 2 others after the fact. And I mean, it just proves my point. I don't know. Okay, so let's check out what she has to say. And okay, I mean, yeah, it's painful. I used to be, okay.
You know, when you were a kid and your parent would wrap you up in a quilt, and you would feel so cozy and loved and safe. That's how wearing a quilt coat makes you feel. Hi everybody, I'm Eliza of All Kinds Studio, and today we're going to be making a quilt coat. I've seen the quilted coat trend.
Cute production. She's got a nice vibe into it.
And floating around the internet for a couple of months, and obviously I couldn't resist. Had to try them out. What's not to love? You can wear a quilt. Amazing.
You know what? By the way, when I started doing the TV show with my mom, And then when I was doing quilty, I just have to say, like, I feel for her. That's a nice still. I was super, like, I don't know, like kind of snotty and kind of like flip. I was like, oh, isn't that fun? Because I was nervous. I just want to say that for the record. Like, I was kind of a brat. I don't know. I just didn't, I don't know. I was trying to be like entertaining, but really I was just flipped, and it was terrible. Sorry.
I started making and selling these a couple months ago, back in November, and I get a lot of questions about my pattern and my process. My pattern is a combination.
Look, big. They are big. You need a big, nice quilt to make that. Then go back and watch the stream. I talk about it. I used to be like totally okay with this whole thing. Whatever, man. We're all gonna die. The quilts are gonna rot away. Make a coat. Make a thing out of the quilt. But no. Now, because of social media, because people are quilts, these vintage quilts are a non-renewable resource. Okay? It's the deforestation, the great quilt deforestation. So many people are doing this. Social media has made it, you know, it's just everywhere, and I don't know. Just
okay. I have a couple of different patterns that I purchased, and then I've made a little tweaks here and there. My pattern is actually a one-size-fits-most. I didn't want any body type to feel like they were excluded from being able to fit into my quilt coat pattern.
Kirsten, you'll love the stream last time.
Quilt coat, my advice to you would be to go out and look at patterns, maybe make a list of what you're looking for in a quilt coat, and then pick out some patterns that check those boxes, make some little adjustments as you want, and then you'll get exactly what you're looking for. As for the quilts I use, I have been sourcing them from antique stores. I've also been buying them from people on Facebook Marketplace. I pretty much use exclusively quilts that have damages like rips or stains. I do this because those quilts have been loved and they have been used, but they're not really gonna be loved or used in the same way anymore. They're damaged. They've got rips or stains. They're not pretty to display.
I mean, okay, is that true? Like, she did show a couple places, obviously, that are damaged. She showed a part of it that's stained, okay? And by the way, I wish this girl luck. I have no shade for her, okay? It's the practice of doing this that's like a little bit like I don't know. But she's not going to use those parts, right? Like, you know? I don't know.
Most people just have them tucked away somewhere. So I view it as I can take these damaged quilts and give them a new purpose and give them a new opportunity to be cherished and loved. All right, let's go make a coat. Here is the quilt I'm using for today's video. It's so beautiful. I love the green grid and the 9-patch quilt block pattern.
Okay.
To me, it feels so fresh and springy, and it's a lighter weight quilt, so it will transition well between seasons. First, I lay out my quilt and check the whole thing for any areas of damage. Then I start laying out my pattern and trying to avoid any damaged spots. I usually end up rearranging my pattern several times so that I can cut it as efficiently as possible. You can see here I'm inspecting the quilt to make sure there are no damages where I placed my pattern pieces.
Yep. What did I say? She's like, oh, that's got a stain, that's got a rip. I'm gonna avoid that. Have you ever? I'm sorry. This is what this is about, right? This is how this goes. And like, please, like, jump in. I love to see what you have to say about this, right? So bring it on. Like, have you ever cut through patchwork? Because if you're making a quilt that has like a star, right? And you want to extend the star all the way to the binding, to the edge of the quilt, like. You make, I mean, the easiest way, it's a terrible idea, right, to try to draft half of a star block. You know, what my mom taught me is, like, the best thing to do is just make the whole star block and then cut it, you know? Cut it in half plus your 1/4-inch seam allowance. And, like, it's just way easier to do that. And when you do that, if you've done that, like, it just... It's weird. It's sort of liberating to cut patchwork apart. But I gotta tell you, I just don't think I could cut a quilt apart. I just don't think I could. Hey, Mostly Quilts, hi. Perhaps the original quilt maker would be happy to see the quilt being worn around town by a hip chick instead of in a dark closet not seen for decades. An excellent point. Like 1,000%. I'm completely in agreement. And I used to think that, period. Like I had that opinion, 1,000%, period. But then it was, social media has changed because just like someone said earlier, yeah, Kirsten said, I remember how the quilt coats came in and out of fashion for the past 20 years. Exactly. In the last stream, we went through the whole thing from Adolfo to Yves Saint Laurent to Adolfo to to Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein and Isabel Marant and all these people. So you should go back and watch it. It was super fun. So it's totally been done before. But what hasn't been done before is the proliferation of this on social media, where a ton of so many designers are doing this. And like, again, I want people to be on their grind. I want them to do stuff. I respect these designers. I do. It's just the practice of it it's just, I don't know, like my feeling has changed. And that's why it's so interesting to me to discuss this. But anyway, yeah. Oh, and the one other thing too that I didn't mention last time is there was an article I read where, I don't think it was the New York Times, it might have been, where someone made the point that fashion is fickle. I mean, trends go in and out, just like Kirsten said, for the past 20 years, things go in and out of fashion. And so to cut up a quilt that could be used for a very long time, right, to wrap us up, to, whatever, to use on a bed. Amish quilts, yeah, really tough. You make a quilted coat and it's going to be super, super lame in like 2 years. It's just not going to be cool. Will they throw it away at that point? Because a quilt as a blanket is really utilitarian for a very long time. A quilt as a jacket or a hat or pants is less so. Again, I'm like figuring this out. So, anyway. Yeah, don't mess with the Amish quilts, right?
And it's time to cut the whole thing out using my rotary blade. I'm just gonna work my way around the whole quilt, cutting out all my pieces.
Oh, God. I mean, I was working on a quilt today. It's hard to see someone cutting it to pieces.
And there you go, all my pattern pieces.
But it's
and
beautiful.
The leftovers of the quilt, which I will save for future projects.
Okay.
Now I'm serging all the raw edges that will be exposed in the seams of the coat.
I know, Carol, I know.
Once that's done, I lay my front pieces to my back piece right
Okay,
side.
so she's doing this thing. It's cool. Again, we did a lot of this before. She's doing her stuff. I mean, she is making it into something, right? And that's awesome. And it's cute. It's super cute. It's cute. I mean, obviously, right? Hang on. My internet has to catch up.
That's a good bit.
Yeah. Okay. So she did great. And then this one too, it's new to me. We're not going to watch it all, obviously. Ugh. Okay.
Today I'm going to be making a quilted jacket. I'm going to cheat because I bought this quilt used. So I'm not going to spend all the time making a big quilt first. I'm going to, use this one.
It's so convenient. No shade, Caroline. I don't know. And again, like, what's really interesting, and I say quilts are a non-renewable resource for this kind of thing, and yet it's not actually true, is it? Because we're all making quilts. We're all, you know, I mean, there's so many. There's probably, yeah, I mean, there's so many quilts, right? Right, exactly, right. We make so many. I mean, the charity quilts alone, you know, like, oh my gosh, so many guilds make charity quilts, you know, for just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds every year. And you know, what's out of fashion becomes in fashion. And so I think about, like, this quilt is not from the 19th century. This is a 20th century quilt, 1,000%. So this is kind of like, I mean, I don't know, is it 80s? I think it might be a little bit later. It's hard to say, but like that brick red and like, I don't know, just the style of it, like it's newer. It's much newer than that other one that we just saw, which was probably Depression era. That green kind of gives it away. So if the quilts that are cool right now are those, you know, 100 years ago, let's see, what is it, 2020, 1920, older, 150-year-old quilt or something like that, which is impressive. You know, those are cool right now, but like in 30 years, the quilts that were made in the 1980s will be, in 30 years, the quilts made in the 1980s will be, I mean, old. they'll be really old. They'll be over, oh God. I mean, right in my head, I had how old they would be. Quilts made in the 1980s. Okay, so quilts made in the 1980s are 40 years old at this point, okay? In another 30 years, they'll be 70 years old. And so all of the novelty prints and stuff and all of the, like, I don't know. I mean, think how cool, like a cotton and steel fabric, a quilt made of cotton and steel fabric, which is already cool, right? Cotton and steel fabric. At least it used to be. I don't know what the new stuff is like. I don't know. I'm out of that part of this to some extent. But, I mean, in that much time, I mean, there are more quilts to cut up. I mean, there are. Someone might cut up this quilt that I'm making right now, hand piecing, because I don't have a sewing machine here in London. You know, they're going to cut it up, probably. So maybe it's okay that they're cutting these quilts up. I don't know. Because this quilt is, a few years ago, like 10 years ago, no one would have wanted to wear this on their body. But now, they do.
And it's going to be awesome. It is so pretty.
It's in such good shape.
Show it to you here. And this is huge. So there's lots of fabric in this.
That's right.
And I washed it, and you have to be really careful when you wash quilt because, some of it actually, some of the color didn't stay. So that's not so cool. But that's what it's like when I'm making things. And the pattern I'm going to use is an old rain jacket that I had. It's a raincoat that ended up being not so waterproof anymore.
Interesting.
So there wasn't really any point to it. So I simply cut it up.
Okay. So we, you know, I don't want to retread all of this. We saw it last time. But yeah, there it goes.
This goes off. I can use that for another.
Yeah, Carol, it's a good point. Oh, interesting. She used a stone to hold it down. That's cool. Okay, all right. We've seen enough. So that's what I wanted to show you. Okay. Interesting, right? Interesting. So first, Dibs, let's just look at this. And the way this goes, the way it's been going, you know, it's oops, sorry. Sorry. Oh God. Okay. I have two monitors, you know, so it's like kind of weird. The way this has been going is, the way it goes with me is that I go into a website, or I start looking at pictures from my file in my computer, and I get curious about something, and then it'll take me off into a different direction. And that might happen here. And if it happens here long enough, if we get interested in certain things, and we don't get to the AIDS quilt documentary, Common Threads, then we'll do it the next time. So I tell you about what kind of is on deck, just so you know that, you know, there's more to look at, and there's more to talk about. But we might not get to it. and then we'll do it next time. Okay, great. So Mostly Quilts asked, are there any instances in which you would feel comfortable with a quilt being cut into a coat? I mean, the thing is, Mostly Quilts, like, the reason it's just interesting to me to keep turning it over in my mind is because I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I have this kind of back and forth. Like, I see both sides of it, you know? I see both sides of the argument or of the situation, right? And so, you know, would I wear a coat? I don't think I could. I really don't think I could. And part of the reason that I can say that is because I know from what we looked at last time, there are so many garments that are like printed, like they're using fabric that they have designed to look like a quilt, right? And these beautiful garments, like, go back and look at the Isabel Marant coat that we look at, this velvet coat. You know, the coat was not great. I tried it on at one point, but it's printed velvet, and it looks like this beautiful log cabin quilt, but it's not actually a quilt. So I think that is, since that's possible, that's probably what I would go with. But it's a great question, and I'm sort of not ambivalent, but I see both sides. Okay, and Sari Quilts says, hey Sari Quilts, I'm glad you're here. She says she agrees with Carol, who said, you know, Carol suggested, why can't a person go to JCPenney and buy a mass-produced quilt, and their friends would never know the difference, right? And Sari Quilts says, I agree, Carol, guessing these are the people wanting to revitalize old quilts. She gets it, but it's painful. Yeah, if the trend comes about again years down the road and they come across a newer hand-priced Dear Jane, a hand-piece Dear Jane, and they cut it up for a jacket. She wants to say a bad word. I think that's the part that's hard, and it's sort of like one of those moments where you just have to let it go. Like the Buddhists would say, you know, attachment. Attachment is the problem. Attachment is suffering. You know, if you're attached to something, you're in for trouble because everything goes, right? Everything turns to dust. I mean, the people that we love, like, it's just, you know, the Buddhists are like all about like letting go of attachment. And the truth is that, you know, a Dear Jane quilt takes forever. There's such an amazing story about it. It's intricate, it's complicated, technically, right? And it's just the time that someone took out of their life to make a Dear Jane quilt, you know, it's really precious. And yet, I mean, the person who made it, you know, will eventually not be here to be sad about it. And the person who cuts it up into a beautiful jacket that they love, I mean, you know, it gets into like a pretty deep thought conversation, right? Which I've said many times and will say many times more. That's why quilts are so interesting to me, because looking at them as a topic leads to all these different things, thinking about Buddhism, thinking about, you know, yeah, attachment. Why are we attached to these quilts? Why in our lifetime are we attached to them? I think it's because we know how much time they take, and some quilts are quite quick to make, but the time that we put into them matters, because, you know, time is a non-renewable resource. So we get a quilt, or we make a quilt, and we know it really matters because we used our time to make it. And so when someone cuts it up, it's like, burn. Ooh, burn. All right. Oh, heck no. Okay. So let's see what first. I could talk about quilts and fashion all night. I could. But I want to make sure that we're keeping things fresh. So first Dibs, are we going to read? What are they? Oh God. Okay. What are they about? Let's read what they're about. About us. They're going to say like how fancy they are, basically. Yes, the most beautiful things on earth. They do have some really cool stuff. First Dibs, leading online marketplace for extraordinary design. They've captured the magic of the Paris flea market. Ew. Mm-hmm. connecting those seeking the most beautiful things on earth with highly coveted sellers and makers in vintage, antique, and contemporary furniture, home decor, art, fine jewelry, watches, and fashion. Our mission. Okay. So, they're fancy, okay? So, I mean, let's just see, to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, because the quilts that they have, you know, some of them are very expensive, but let's just see how expensive one of the most expensive things is. I mean, I'm sure if I look at furniture and I look at, like, if I sort, like, highest price to, oh God. Yeah, people take handmade antique furniture and cut it up. That's brutal. Okay, so let's look at the price high to low in their furniture category. 90 grand. Oh no, yeah, okay. 90 grand for a ceiling lamp, okay? Oh God, okay, they're selling a Bugatti. Okay, they're selling a Bugatti car. $5 million. Hey, I wanted to price high to low. Why isn't the Bugatti like the first hit? I mean, 3.5, is that right? I don't deal with millions of dollars. No. Yeah, that's millions, right? $5 million? I mean, I don't look at those numbers very often. Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, a Bugatti's pretty cool, but I'm not their customer. Let's put it that way. Okay. So that's the kind of thing we're dealing with here. So, you know, my curiosity lands on, okay, well, what kind of quilts do they auction, you know? So let's find out. And what kind of quilts do they have? I mean, that's, you know, it's not just about like how much are the quilts that they're selling. It's what do they have, and what is the clientele that they're catering to? You know, what do they want? What do they want to buy? You know, to me, that's pretty interesting in terms of the life of the quilt in this country and beyond. What do people think is worth? You know, Bugatti price tags, right? So let's select a few things. Let's do antique and vintage. Any price. Yeah, any price. At any price. What else do we have? Shipping options, style period. Let's do... Well, we have to cull things a little bit, right? I mean, 19th century for sure. But if we get 20th century, we're going to get into, you know, Depression era and the 40s, what I love quilts from the 40s. So let's just limit it to that. And we still have, what, how many? Many. Okay, newest. Well, let's go high to low. Oh, no, let's go popular. What's popular? Okay, now we're going to get some... Yeah, there's a mohair blanket rug, because it's quilts and blankets, right? So, okay. Interesting. So... Antique quilt mosaic honeycomb. Oh, let's look at this. So that's $3,800. I mean, I've had great conversations with people about how to price quilts, right? And it's, I mean, I would love to have like interviews on this Twitch channel. I think that would be really fun. I really want to do that, and I think talking to a dealer, you know, on this on a live stream would be really wonderful. I have to figure out how to do that, and then I have to, you know, ask someone if they would do that with me. I know a few dealers. I could probably get someone on. But, you know, okay, how old is this quilt? Okay, or I should say, what year was it made? Let's look a little closer. Okay, the resolution isn't amazing when I zoom in. But obviously, so this border, and I'm not a professional quilt appraiser, but I do know that this particular border style, like, it's probably pretty old. Like, I would imagine it's, you know, it's potentially, and I could be wrong, we're going to find out really quickly if I'm wrong, but like early 19th century, I would say. There's a lot of different fabrics in it, which means it's not like 17th century, 18th century. But there's this, I don't know, there's this border frame style deal that's I don't know, that one fabric, and that paisley too. I don't know. Let's see what we get. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of a tell, right? These, yeah, that's like Victorian. I mean, you know, the morning prints. Morning prints are, you know, the prints that were used in, you know, dresses and things for, you know, for people in mourning, right? Like, they were actually fabrics for that in particular. And there were some really wild prints, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, part of the fear of doing all this live is because I might say something really wrong, but that's okay. Like, I admit it, right? I don't know everything. But there's a particular purple. This purple is really interesting. That was very popular, a popular color at that time. But there's also this really wild stuff. These are morning prints. This gray, right? Gray and black, and sort of cream colored. Those are morning prints there, right? Stripes and things. Oh, you know, that's something that would be super fun to do, is to go through swatch books and stuff. Here's a morning print. This is good, because this is kind of what let me open in a new tab. There's this like weird, hey, don't do that. That's not cool. Hang on. I'm gonna pull it there, and I'm pulling this up here. And we're going to go here, and we're going to go full screen. Okay. Yeah, so there's like this weird corally motif that shows up a lot. Like this sort of, I mean, it looks like coral. That's the shape of the pattern. I mean, that's the best I can describe it as, is this coral sort of motif. And I think that's what we're gonna see. I mean, that's what I saw in this. You see? Okay, right there. I'm gonna zoom in. It's not gonna be great, but there's this like corally thing that happens a lot, and so that may not be a morning print, but it's got some of that stuff going on. Okay, let's see. When was it made, or when is it dated? $3,800. Extraordinary fabrics, cut into hexagons, pieced. This elegant spread. I wonder, a spread, is it quilted? That's kind of strange that they would call it that if it's quilted. Oh, it has a provenance. Mrs. O.E. Bishop, about 78 years old. Oh, wow. So maybe that's part of it, is that it's expensive. I know, Carol, they're amazing. I'm sure some fabric company has done a morning print line, right? Like Moda's brilliant. I'm sure they've done it, you know, some reproduction. In fact, Barbara Brackman designs for Moda, at least she used to. I am 1,000% sure that she has done a reboot of the morning prints. Early antique quilts made in England. I wondered about that. 20th century quilters popularized pastel. The design is difficult to piece. Is it? Who wrote this? A quilt maker with sophisticated eye for color and pattern. The chintz border retains its original glaze. Yeah, 1840. I mean, it's early. It's pretty early. You know? I mean, there's so many quilts. So many of the quilts that those gals are cutting up for their jackets, you know, you're talking like 1880, 1890, 1900, but this is pretty old, you know. So interesting. $3,800, maybe because it has provenance, maybe. So let's see what else they got. Show me what you got first, Dibs. Okay, let's get a really expensive one. $14,000, but this isn't a quilt. This is a wool tapestry. A wool we don't care. Who care? Wool. Go on a Twitch stream for wool people. Okay, so that's $5,500. Okay. Oh, I want to go to that one down below. But I have to look at the one that's even more expensive than the other one. Okay, so Feathered Star. Man. I mean, I was, doing this by hand, and I was like, oh, God, I'm so impressed with myself that I did those Y seams, and but this is just a whole other ball game. Look at that. I mean, it's wonderful. These, I mean, I'm pretty sure I made a Feathered Star one time. And that was all I did. But maybe I'm ready to tackle it again. But I mean, let me just look at another Feathered Star, because I want to look at construction. Hang on. Feathered Star quilt. I mean, you have to make all those little saw teeth. This is AQS. You have to make all those little saw teeth. Oh, this is a good size. Hang on. Load up. Okay. I'm gonna just make this really big, full screen. Okay. So, I mean, you have to make these units, right? I mean, that's a strip, isn't it? Or this is like these 2 half square triangles, and then you leave this little triangle open. Okay, I'm thinking this through. Yeah, okay, so like you'd make this probably, like this unit, and you'd make this unit. No, yeah, because this is your background fabric, right? And then you'd make this unit. I mean, you could do it in whatever order you wanted, right? But I'd probably go with the easy stuff first, the quarter square triangle, but leave it open, to put in these. I don't know. I mean, there's not a million ways to do it, but there are plenty of ways to do it, and it's not easy. I don't know. Is it crazy that I think it might actually be easier hand-pieced? Is that insane? And the reason I say that is because, I mean, with your sewing machine, things can get all cocked up, pretty quickly, because the sewing machine is pretty fast. So I remember when I was doing my Feathered Star experiment, I mean, it's so small, everything's so small, that if I got off a little bit, it looked really off, So, I mean, this is pretty amazing. Oh, look, I bet it's about the same age as the other one. Look how tiny. Oh, the quilting. I mean, really? Look at that. That's so amazing. Here's another picture. Wow. I mean, it's look at that right there. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Who does that? The woman who made this, right? I mean, and to be fair, probably more than one person worked on the quilting, right? Because that's what you did. You quilted things at a quilting bee because it was a lot faster than doing it yourself. Antique, vintage, or antique piece quilt. Feathered Star with geese in flight, earth tones, finely quilted, indeed, with hearts. Oh, God. Probably made for a bride. 1875. Interesting. Someone told me you date a quilt by the oldest fabric in it. Is that right? The newest fabric. If you know, put it in the chat. I forget right now. What makes sense? The newest. Right, the newest one. Yeah. Right. Okay, right. Because you might have a scrap bag full of really old material, but yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Okay, hang on. Fence rail, log cabin. Fence rail, log cabin. Okay. Pots of flowers. Now this one's 2,200. It says interesting. Look at this quilt. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so great. It's so great. Okay, let's look at the stats first. Pots of flowers. It's unusual in that it is simultaneously fanciful and elegant. What? Weird. The blossoms, they should pay a quilt person to write these things. I'm available. The blossoms are far larger than their container. Okay, yeah, I get it. Giving this elegant quilt a touch of whimsy. Okay, I'm here for it. I get it. Cotton sateen, making it dressier than many. Applique and reverse applique are elaborately done. Okay. Hey, Quilter 462. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Quilter 462 made a feathered star wall hanging once, and you can't remember exactly how it went together, but there were some partial seams. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, with my little, I keep showing it off because I'm so happy. This is all about those Y seams, which I used to be afraid of, but I remember on the show, actually, years ago, I did a few, and I was like, oh, that's not that bad. You just got to pierce that little dot. You can't sew all the way, you know. You sew partially, right? But just pierce that little dot, and you should be okay. Okay. So yeah, it is whimsical, and they're right in that description. I mean, the block. So here's the block, right? Those what are they? They're not poppies. I don't know, carnations or something. They're really breaking out of the frame. And then the swag border is just ridiculously awesome. Wow. Bunting. Yeah, the flowers are really close to the edge of the block. And that's cool. That's cool. There's not a lot of negative space here. Not a lot, I mean, not as much as a lot of these floral applique quilts have. Yeah, fabulous. Well, and that's interesting too. Wait a second. So, okay, so they're all facing this way. All the pots are going this way. And all the pots are going, but why? I don't know. Like, there's just this kind of strange negative space there. I don't know. I love looking at them. Don't you love it? I love it. Okay. Let's look at a few more. I like this. I mean, the thing is with this website is they have, whoa! This is why I go here, okay? This is why I go here. What is this? What? $7,800. This is the biggest one. Hey, New Elizabeth. Hi. Yeah, I agree. Like, there was something weird with that poppy quilt or something. Something strange. Like, yeah, like maybe it should have been set on point. Okay, let's look at it again really quick, because I love thinking about the humanity of the people who were making these quilts, because we imagine these quilt makers as being just like really good at making quilts, and we have this sort of romantic notion, me included, of, you know, these people sitting down and making these quilts like it's nothing, you know, and they're all really good at it. But so many quilts are like, I mean, not great, you know, like oh, she really didn't like, you know, making that, or she, you know, she wasn't the person people called on when they needed help with their quilt, you know, like there's a lot of quilts that are not, they're not amazing, you know, from this time period. And that's awesome. That's the coolest thing ever. And it's really interesting what you say. Hey, Dana. Hi. Our Australian friend. It's so good to see you. Thank you for coming. Elizabeth says, hey, Elizabeth, like, should these have been set on point? And it's pretty funny to think about that, because, I mean, can you sort of see? Oh, let's see. How could I do that? Wow, it would take me a lot of boring work to take one of those blocks out and turn it on point for you guys, but it would be really fun. Maybe I'll get that together. Hey, hi 5Z. That's my husband. Hi, Eric. Hi. We're having a grand old time. Okay, so let's go to this weird quilt. What is this? What is this thing? Come here, you. $7,800. Antique pieced quilt. Feathered stars. Indeed. $7,800. Very interesting. Again, this border places it a little bit older, right? It's going to be like 1850 or under. You wait. When we look at it, we'll see. I mean, this is wild. There's also not that many fabrics in it, which isn't for sure like a tell that it's super early, but earlier quilts had fewer fabrics in them because there wasn't that much fabric to be had. It wasn't until, fabric production just went bananas in this country, in this country, in the UK, and then also in America, that people could make those scrap quilts, because there wasn't fabric to make those quilts until, Industrial Revolution like gave us this flood of fabric. So this quilt, and that pink, I don't know, it seems pretty old to me. I think it's old. We should take bets. Hey, Mary Antique Cake. Oh, I know you. The containers are at a very whimsical angle. Yes, with the red quilt, 1000%. The chat is like, there's like a slight delay, not a big delay for me, but there's a tiny delay. So if I miss your comment, well, I'll definitely come back to it. But okay, so I want to see one of these blocks up close. I think we're gonna get it. Oh yeah, wow. Oh yeah. See, this fabric looks old to me. This one really does. I am probably so wrong. It's probably like 1920. It isn't, but, and look at the quilting. Whoa, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, let's see what else they got for us. Hang on. It's kind of psychedelic, Yeah, it's old. There's just no way that it isn't. The quilting is amazing. Okay, I love it. I love the quilting. I love that thin double grid. Yeah, it is tiny piecing. Do I have information about the size of the blocks? I don't. It's a good question, Elizabeth. And I guess, well, what you could do, and because obviously my math skills are poor, I think I tried to do math twice on this stream already. Not great. Only partially successful. But what you could do is, they do have the dimensions of the quilt, so you could figure it out, right? If you wanted to figure that out, you could look at the thing. I'll put the link in the chat, by the way, for all this stuff. You could look and then do at least the rough math to see how many, how big the blocks would be, at least just roughly. Okay, so let's just look at a little, but I love this double grid. But then look here at the corner, at the border, she's doing this wonderful sort of curved thing. It's just awesome. It's awesome. Okay. And then we're going to read about it. That pink is just wild. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so great. So this one's $7,800. $7,800. I love that. You know what? Looking at old quilts, like that's what you got to do, man. There's a lot of great new stuff all the time that, will give you inspiration and will really excite you. And of course, people come up with better ways to teach techniques and stuff. But like these old quilts, there's just cool stuff, to inspire you. I love this double grid. It's so interesting. It's so good. And it's not hard, And I've been hand quilting, and like, I can do that. Instead of just a grid, how about a double grid? I'm all about it. I'm so into it. Okay. Yeah, this is old. Okay, so let's see the big reveal. How old is it? 19th century, Maryland. They only say 19th century. They say mid 19th century. Okay. I think they're wrong. Yeah, seaweed. That's kind of that. That's I said coral before, but it's true. It's kind of seaweedy. It's seaweedy. Kirsten's getting inspired to pick up needle and thread. I'm telling you, girl. I'm telling you. When you don't have a sewing machine, you really get excited about hand quilting. Okay. Elsa Schiaparelli. Amazing. That's not a quilt, but that's fine. Okay, so look at these. They're really crazy. Oh, beautiful Star of Bethlehem. Okay. Wow. This is great. Okay, so let's. Oh, $8,500. What? That's not a quilt. That's just a. That's just a textile. It's beautiful. It's only 4x4. Interesting. Lancaster. Okay, here's our most expensive quilt yet. And I said it wrong. It's Lancaster. I was at QuiltCon and I was giving a tour of some Amish quilts from Lancaster collection, and I was saying Lancaster, and a woman came up to me and she was like, "It's Lancaster," and I was like, "What?" Okay, Lancaster. It was great. I was glad she corrected me. Oh, this is pretty good. Whoa. Okay, look. Hold on. Hang on. Let me just see if I can do. No, they won't. They don't want you to save pictures of these things. I'm going to go to full view, so I'm going to cover up the chat for a second, but we should do that. I mean the quilting, like, look at that. That's just crazy. It's so amazing. Like that's a tulip. Sorry. Oh God, it's so annoying. That's like a tulip there. Yeah, tulips there. Obviously feathered. I mean, come on, really? Daisies, a vine. I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's so great. And it is in amazing shape, right? Amazing shape. Yeah, I mean, Amish quilts, like, I don't know as much about them as many people. Yannick and Smucker comes to mind. But, you know, yeah, it's amazing. Okay, wait, I gotta catch up on the chat. So Kate says, she's been waiting for this to come up. Do I know about the Esprit collection of quilts? Yes. And then it was the main collection of the Lancaster Quilt Museum. That's right. That's what it was. That's exactly the Esprit collection, of course. Now that the museum is closed, you really hope this isn't one of the quilts. Oh. That's really interesting. Okay, so what Kate is talking about is the Esprit collection. So Esprit, some of you know that that company, right? Clothing company. I was obsessed with Esprit when I was a kid. They're still doing stuff. Here. Oh, this is, yeah. So the people who started, who you know, founded Esprit clothing company, they collected quilts. They were huge quilt collectors. And my friend Julie Silber, who is a legend, just a hero of mine, she was the curator for the Esprit collection. So this picture, let's go to this one first. The Esprit folks hung their quilt collection in their offices. Oh, hang on. Sorry. We're gonna look it up. Hang on. I want to show you. Yeah. So this is the office. These are the offices of Esprit, which may have been on the West Coast. I'm not sure. But the quilts were hanging in the offices. These are the collectors. No, that's Julie Silber in front. So yeah, and I don't know what happened to the collection. Here's the offices of Esprit. And maybe, yeah, maybe that quilt was sold, but I don't know. I don't think so. Julie would probably know. Here, I'm going to put this in the chat. You should go to the International Quilt Study Center, or the International Quilt Museum, and read all about the Esprit collection. And you know, we'll talk more about this. I'll come back to this because there's a whole lot to say about that. And this is a wonderful book by Julie Silber that goes over the whole thing. I don't know if you can get it anymore, but it's really, really cool. There was an exhibit in Lancaster of the Esprit collection, and look how they did that. Isn't that wonderful? So they were all Amish quilts. And you know, that's a great reason to get guests on here, right? I mean, to talk to Julie about all this would be really, really fun. Yeah. Really good tip, Kate. Good call. Good call. Okay. Oh, it's just too much. Okay. I can't handle it. Let's see what else we have. Yeah, we have to talk about quilts from Pakistan and Uzbekistan at some point. There's so much to do. And if you've just joined us, you know, this is what this show is all about, is we just go down. Hey, Vijinmi, you wore a spree in high school and a Benetton watch. Oh, I would have given anything to wear a Benetton watch. We couldn't get Benetton in Des Moines. I mean, I lived in a small town, but Des Moines was the biggest city that was near, and there just wasn't any Benetton. But I know what you're talking about. Okay, a cotton crazy crib quilt, 3,200. Wow, that one seems old. This is chintz. This is really intense chintz. You know? I mean, when it looks like a tapestry, when the fabric looks like a tapestry that's faded, you're probably dealing with something that's, you know, older than most quilts you might see. Probably. I mean, that's an old fabric. Oh, look, Anna, or and? Does that say and? Decked? There's words on it. There's words embroidered. Okay, hang on. Your life? Look at this. Look, your life. Your lot. Okay, if they don't have the full description that has like what it says on it, I will be upset. Good night. 1885. Okay. It's not as old as I thought. Oh, grandma. Look, grandma. I should stop saying that I know what year quilts are because I don't. Let's see if they say what it has, what's been written on it in thread. Oh, lovely. Embroidered in the blocks of this unique crib quilt is the following message. Your childhood years, they will soon be over. Okay. And your school days, then all will be... May health, wealth, and happiness be your lot. Okay, I'm going to cry. As long as your life shall last. Oh my God. Your grandma has made the spread for your feet and decked it with colors all bright. And when you are warmly tucked into your bed, oh, then think of your grandma. Good night. Harriet S. Smith, age 69. I can't. I literally cannot. It's so good. That's amazing. It's just beautiful. Exactly. I'm going to put the link in here. I mean, come on. Your grandma has made this spread for your feet and decked it with colors all bright. And when you are warmly tucked into your bed, then think of your grandma. Good night. I mean, come on. Like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's beautiful. I put the link in the chat. Stupid. Let's pour one out for grandma. Like, really. Unbelievable. So that's what you get when you come to the stream, you know? That's what you get. You get, like... pierced in the heart with love, basically. Okay. Whew. Okay, I could look at this stuff all night and we'll come back to it because there's always new stuff to see. It's annoying they put me back up at the top every time I click away. Yeah, these wonderful Kantha quilts, Uzbekistan embroidery, amazing. Oh wow, Paco Rabanne. You guys, it's set... This dress, okay. I mean, come on. Yeah, I know, Marianne. How could they sell it? I know. I mean, so this was $7,500. This paillette dress. Oh, I see something that might not be safe for work. Well, there's a woman draped provocatively on a chair, and we're gonna go ahead and look at it. I mean, it's not gonna be risque. Well, it's not gonna be vulgar if it's on this website, but I'm warning you, there's a woman sort of in this dress modeling it in a photograph, and we'll just see what happens. So this dress was $7,500. It came up on a search for quilts. Oh, yes. Okay, there she is. It's very James Bond, right? Very Bond. I mean, wow. It's 73% off, everybody. Anyone? Anyone? For $2,000? Okay. Let's just go to the end of this page. And then we're gonna talk about the names project. We're gonna talk about it for a little while, and then next time we'll continue. Cotton crazy. I mean, go to First Dibs and look. This is incredible. I mean, I could click on these all night. Yeah, Virgin me. Maybe I'd buy fabric instead. Same. Oh, this is really cool though. Okay, hang on. I just want to look at that one, but let's go through all of this particular page. I mean, there's thousands. Lemoyne Star. And if you've just come in, we are going down the quilt rabbit hole together, looking at this very expensive auction site to see what they have for us in terms of the quilt selection. I mean, there's just pages and pages of it. Of course, when you get toward the later pages of the search, you find more things that don't really, you find more like Paco Rabanne paillette dresses, whatever. But I just have to look at this. I mean, when I told you I was working on this quilt, and I keep showing it off, that I'm gonna do a really dark toned quilt with it. The background is gonna be black and things. This is why. I mean, I love this. It's so dark. I love a log cabin. I really do. But a lot of this, there's no white in it. There's some cream, but it's pretty dark toned. It's just great. Oh, I mean, really? Look at that. It's so great. The way I make a log cabin, I don't cut out the logs. I just cut strips and I paper piece the whole thing. I love making log cabin quilts because of that. Because when you cut all your logs, I mean, you have to have so many different lengths for them. And I remember my mom had like pizza boxes. Like she would like lay out her cut logs, in pizza boxes to keep them. Hey, Nori. Hi. Nori's here. So, she'd lay out her strips in pizza boxes to keep them all, organized. But even still, I mean, that takes a lot of room and a lot of time and organization. But even still, when you're making a log cabin block, in that middle part, the logs are they're very similar. You have like a 7/8 inch difference between one log and another. And it's just a pain to cut all that out. So I just cut long strips, use a foundation, and just sew and snip as I go, Does that make sense? So this quilt doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me. I just love it. Scrappy. Super scrappy. Wow. It looks really thick. Why does it look so thick? A lot of batting? I mean, is that a ridiculous thing to say? I mean, I don't know. It looks really thick. You use pizza boxes. Your kid used to work at a pizza place. Yeah. I love the log cabin variations too. And I love it when they're faded like this. Like this green is faded. It's fabulous. Looks better. So good. I mean, just go scrappy, people. Go scrappy. Your quilt doesn't have to like match. Look at this. I mean, she's like, I'm not worrying about the directional print. I want to get this thing done. That's what I think of when I see that. Okay, fabulous. So $3,200. Make an offer. Ships from Maryland. 78 by 92. It's big. It's really big. Yeah. Cool, man. Wool challis. Okay, so it's wool. That's why it looks thick. Folded log cabin on a foundation piece. Marianne, excellent guess. I think it's because it's wool. Yeah, it's fabulous. Okay. So we've gone over a lot of really cool stuff so far. We talked a little bit about fashion. We talked about, what else did we talk about? Oh yeah, we talked about these quilts on First Dibs. And now we're going to talk about the AIDS quilt. And the reason that we're going to do that is because someone mentioned it to me the other day, and why were we talking? Well, it comes up a lot. Like, I don't know if you have had this experience, but when you mention to someone that you make quilts or you're a quilter, a lot of times someone will say to me, "Oh, like, is the AIDS quilt still a thing?" Or, like the AIDS quilt, like it's a reference point for a lot of people, just in terms of quilts. A few years ago, chip break. A few years ago, I really looked at it hard because I did a lecture at QuiltCon about it, and I learned very interesting things. This website, by the way, is pretty amazing. I mean, the Names Project is the organization that manages that started or formed around the making of the quilt. Its official name is The Quilt. People know it colloquially as the AIDS quilt. The Names Project is the organization who manages the whole thing, which is no small feat, because the AIDS quilt at this point is something like 54 tons in terms of how much it weighs. As far as I know, right now, it's kept in a warehouse in Atlanta. This website's really interesting. You can search for a name or a block number. Okay. So, let's see. Hold on. I mean, Rock Hudson is easy, right? I know it's really heavy in so many ways, right, Nori? Rock Hudson. Oh, couldn't find any name. Rock Hudson. That's interesting. The Barachi. I know that Rock Hudson is in there. I mean, he was one of the first people who was famous, right? Who was HIV positive. So you can click on a name, and I mean, all of the names of the people are listed in this database. So my mom just messaged me. We could get her back on. Last time she came on the stream. That'd be pretty fun. So if you know someone, right? If you maybe made a panel for someone, you can look them up and you can find their panel through this website. Oh, here we have another message from Grandma. It's very touching. It's sometimes it's quite hard to look at this, which is part of the reason that it exists, right? Is to slow down a person long enough to read a name, to think about why this quilt exists and who it's made for. And some of the quilt panels have patchwork elements, sort of traditional patchwork elements. I searched for those to share in my lecture, just because I was lecturing to. Sorry, it's a really touchy Zoom. Because I was looking for. Oh, here, just like this. Okay, hang on, let me use this. See, so that this to me was probably made by, I don't know, a person who had some knowledge of quilting, right? Because that's a basket block that's pretty specific. Most of the panels do not represent that kind of traditional quilt stuff, because it was not quilters, en masse who were making these panels. It was just people, right? This is beautiful. Sisters and brothers, sons and daughters, fathers, mothers. So it's interesting. Wikipedia talks about the AIDS quilt as the largest folk art project, I think, or community folk art. It's interesting the way that they talk about it. And then the more I looked at the AIDS quilt, the more I realized how complicated it actually was at the time. And we're gonna watch a couple things about it. And like I said, I won't watch the whole documentary with you this time, because I don't know. I mean, there's some patchwork, some sort of traditional patchwork. I just don't want you to to go away. Oh no. I don't want you to go away because, my technical skills are not perfect. But what we're going to do is watch at least some of this documentary, Common Threads, which was Dustin Hoffman is the narrator for this documentary, and we'll just watch some of it together and talk about it. Then the reason the AIDS quilt, one other thing to say is that because so many people that I talk to, on an airplane or, in conversation, when I mention quilts, so many people will say, they'll bring up the AIDS quilt. And the reason that I was interested in looking at it more is because, I didn't know anything about it. And, as a quilt person, oh, good. Thanks, Marianne. What was strange about the AIDS quilt thing to me is because I didn't know anything about it, and here it's the largest art, community art project in the world, and it's a quilt. And I didn't know anything about it. I couldn't really say anything to anybody about it, even though it came up all the time. And so I looked at it, and once more, here's a perfect example of how quilts are a gateway to the whole world. I know a fair amount now about ACT UP, the activist organization who changed the world from their activism around the AIDS crisis, HIV/AIDS crisis. I know about ACT UP, and I know about the different cities that were just devastated by HIV/AIDS in the 1980s. I mean, Dallas. I learned that Dallas and Houston to San Francisco, New York were really, really hard hit. All of these little details that I know about that story came because of a quilt. And I don't know that I ever would have looked at the AIDS crisis in America in particular. Why would I do that? Why would I have a reason to do that? But a quilt led the way, And I learned that, in sub-Saharan Africa, AIDS is raging. And the thing that I learned that was heartbreaking, the whole thing was really heartbreaking, the research for that. But in Africa, it's not a problem of money to get, people help there. There's money. Other countries have money that they could use to help, these people suffering from AIDS and HIV in Africa, but it's just not a priority. And, I donated some of my money I think all of my money, from that lecture to a group that helps that. I shouldn't even say that. I didn't say that because whatever. Okay, it's gross. What I'm trying to say is I learned about things through this lecture that made me want to take action, right? That's all I'm trying to say. So let's watch a little bit of Common Thread, Stories from the Quilt. It was made in 1989. And yeah, Dustin Hoffman narrates, and let's see a little bit of it. I think it starts silent. I'll watch. I mean, I'll... Okay.
Some infectious agent is causing this epidemic, a disease that's a killer. This probably means they are dealing with some new, deadly, sexually transmitted disease. One of the most frightening medical mysteries of modern
The
time.
man with the most publicized case of AIDS, Rock Hudson, flew home from Paris today on a chartered 747 jet. Hudson's
Rock
6'4"
Hudson returned to
frame.
Los Angeles and was immediately flown to UCLA Medical Center. It was there that Hudson learned he has AIDS.
It took Rock Hudson's death to capture America's attention. By that time, AIDS had already killed 15,000 other Americans. Rock Hudson is the most famous name in a giant quilt, a memorial to tens of thousands of men, women, and children who came along very different roads to the same fate.
Ron Winters, Wayne Field, Ray Wright Jr., Edward Richards, Billy, Juan Jimenez, Bob Blood, David Jacob.
Yeah.
He hated the stereotype that the heterosexual world had towards the gay community. And it wasn't true. And he was a perfect living soul to prove that. He is was a very competitive man. And it hit a great note in my heart because I'm a very competitive woman. He was the 6th greatest athlete in the world in the decathlon. He placed 6th. 31, 32 when he was doing this? He was incredible. And he was out to prove something. We go down and we play racquetball. I teach him how to play.
Oh my gosh, sorry.
And he said, no problem. I am a top-notch athlete. It is nothing for me to pick up anything. I am great and wonderful at everything I do. I go, we'll see. My biggest pleasure was to be whipping him around that court. And every time he would be diving for a ball and crash into a wall with sweat pouring out, I would almost fall down laughing. I said, you're not in shape, Tom. You gotta be a special lady. You got me sitting on top of the world. Every time I hear that song, I think about it. It's what he made me feel like a special person. I've always been involved in the church. It was very important to me to have a stable relationship and a commitment. And in the middle of talking, he said, well, I'll marry you. You know, that's no problem. I said, now, did I ask him or did he ask me? It was always crazy about how it actually happened. 3 months after we married, you could tell there was something bothering him. And he said he wanted to talk to me. And
he told him he was on drugs and that he had been trying to get off, and he was having a heart problem with it, trying to straighten up. And he said to me at the time, he said, if you want to be out of this relationship, I understand, because I don't want to pull you down through that. Of course, I thought about it. We prayed about it. And the prayer, I said, well, we took vows and it was for better or worse. And I said to him, I said, okay, we said better or worse, but this shit is going to get better.
So one thing I want to say about the quilt and it's a negative thing, that I was surprised, amazed to read about. And it's interesting to know it and to think about it in context of this film, because this film is so, it's very emotional. It's very, it's lovely, right? It's about the quilt. But what I learned by watching one documentary and then also reading a bunch of stuff is that there were people who did not like the quilt. They were actually very anti the Names Project quilt, because there were people who were out in the street, protesting, being ignored, right? I mean, Ronald Reagan didn't say the word AIDS for 5 years. It was 5 years into the AIDS crisis before he said the word in public, and that is true. That was really hard, and you think about COVID, right? And how it's just like devastated, so much, right? It's scary and it's weird and it's new and it's affecting everybody. And AIDS was a thing that was affecting this particular community, right? So a lot of people didn't have to worry about it, or until it affected their own lives. But so it was this thing happening that a lot of people were ignoring, and so there were many people marching in the streets, going to Washington, protesting, demanding attention. Please, someone listen to us. This is, we're dying. And so those people, some people were angry about the quilt, or they were dismissive, at least, because it was passive. They felt that it was a passive thing to do. That one person that I heard, or that I read quoted, called it the death tarp. And when I read this, I was like, whoa, and I was like kind of upset about it, or I just, it really turned me off. But then the more I read about it, the more at least I understood where they might have been coming from. I mean, I could see where they were coming from, I guess, because they're like, the quilt, they felt the quilt was sort of sentimental, and it was like it was like a memorial, but they kind of felt, and I'm kind of giving you the summation here, but they were like, we don't need a memorial yet, we need a cure. Instead of putting your time and your effort into making a quilt block, why don't you donate to AMFAR or donate to ACT UP or whatnot. And like, I could see their point, because it was an emergency, right? I understood that. On the other hand, I felt like it was super sexist, because I mean, a lot of what was AIDS and HIV was affecting primarily, not totally, primarily the gay community, right? Gay men. And millions died, right? Gay men in America. And so to me, I was a little tender about this idea that, quilts were lame, and like, oh yeah, you're making a quilt. Well, that's great. It's like, well, yeah, it is great. It was one of those moments, just kind of like quilts and fashion, right? Making jackets out of quilts. It was like, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. And I kind of have mixed feelings, yeah, about this too, because exactly, Kirsten makes the point. The quilt helped bring the AIDS crisis to the news. I mean, it was this huge quilt, right? And so it was a great story. I mean, the newspapers covered it. Dustin Hoffman is, the narrator for this film. So the quilt got enormous press, and it couldn't be ignored. And so exactly, like, the quilt had this great opportunity. It was an opportunity for the masses to see the scale of the problem. And so, but it's just interesting to watch this, knowing that, right, that not everybody was like pro quilt. I had no idea about that. I mean, how could you argue with a quilt, with like the AIDS quilt? Like, it's like, wow, amazing, right? But not everybody felt that way. And that to me makes the story even more compelling. One other thing to mention is that each block, if you will, so like you can see, I'm talking to quilters, so you know what I mean, the black sashing around the blocks, if you will, they are the panels. So each, sorry, oh, I hate that, but I have to have it on. This W. Scott Bryant here, can you see my cursor? If you look at the W. Scott Bryant panel there, that's what's called a panel. Yeah, you can see that. This is a panel with the blue jeans on it. So those are called the panels, and you could make a panel for, you know, a person or a group of people, whatnot. So those are panels. And then those would be sewn together. It's kind of in a log cabin. It's sort of reminiscent of a log cabin is what they kind of were going for. You see, you know, the stacked things. It's not exactly, but it's close. And there are 8 panels to a section, a block. And the panels are 6 by 3. No, it's bigger than that, but they're roughly the size of a coffin. That's how they got that size. That's why it's that size. So.
It was a going away party. We were talking to a bunch of people, and one of our favorite movies was Two for the Road with Albert Finney and Audrey Hepburn. And there was one scene in Two for the Road towards the end of the film that Jeffrey and I knew by heart, and we did it. Both parts. I forget who did which one. There was this pause right after we finished, and some guy looked at us and he said, "I was genuinely moved." And Jeffrey burst out laughing. And I remember after that, for years, every time we would see something in the movies that was either funny or charming or something, Jeffrey would say, "I was genuinely moved." He was the kind of a person I was when I was a teenager. But he still had that sort of childlike teenage innocence. Jeffrey had favorite movie stars, and his favorites turned out in many cases, you know, to be my favorites.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come?
Remember the Wedding was probably his favorite film. I think it was because he identified so much with character Frankie Adams, who was played by Julie Harris. Frankie felt like she didn't belong. I think Jeffrey identified as a person who didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. You know how they used to say that there are some people who are too gentle to live among wolves? That was Jeffrey.
This is Marcia Pally for Our Time. We're at the Chelsea Gay Street Fair. It's a beautiful afternoon. We have just about everything here today. Gay atheists, gay Lutherans, old people, young people. How do you feel about the gay community today?
Oh, it makes me very nervous. But then again, most things do.
I don't have any concept of what happens to us when we die. In my son's case, knowing David, I believe he's up there, right alongside the big man, making suggestions and changes and saying, "Well, God, if you do it this way, maybe, just maybe, things will work out a little better."
David was full speed ahead. Everything about him was a forward motion. Sometimes I would just look at him and marvel at him. Because watching him was like watching someone actually eat life. And in the back of my mind, I thought, he's my little life eater.
Aww.
He really knows how to extract the most.
It's beautiful.
was a very strong child, physically, and hated baths. So when I would hold him in his little tub, I would have to grasp him very firmly, or he was off and running. And the doctor noticed bruises on his upper chest and upper arms, much as you would take hold of a child if you were going to shake him, and asked that we put David into the hospital to see if he was an easy bruiser or if he was being battered. When they ran the test, they discovered not only was he an easy bruiser, he was, in fact, a classic severe hemophiliac.
Wow. One thing before we go to the next story is Fran Lebowitz, who's a writer, public intellectual, truly a hero of mine. She did a film with Martin Scorsese. In fact, it's on Netflix now. It's not a film, it's a series, 6 parts, called Pretend It's a City. I recommend you watch it. It's really great. And I think it's in that film or in that series that she says, and she's older. I mean, I think she's in her she might be in her 80s at this point. I'm not sure. Certainly her late 70s. And she was in New York during the AIDS crisis. And on this quilt, you'll see a lot. In fact, at the bottom of the screen of the frame right now, you see those yellow dots. I mean, that's someone's name written in lights, if you will, like a cabaret kind of style. And you see a lot of theater masks and playbill kind of designs and lots of theater and art and dance kind of references. And Fran Lebowitz mentions in that series that one of the most terrible things about the AIDS crisis, about the devastation of New York, was that she said we lost this audience. It wasn't just that we lost the artists and the makers and the dancers, and of course that was terrible. But think of the audience that we lost. They, that particular community in New York City and in San Francisco, but particularly in New York City, this culture, this gay male culture was, I'm speaking broadly, but these were people who were patrons of the arts, and they were going to dance and they were going to theater, and she just made that point that the audience went away, and I've never forgotten that. I think it's very intense. Let me move this over here. Okay.
If you were in the Navy, you had to have a wife. That was part of the Navy career. I spent 18 years with my ex-wife and had a decent relationship, I think, with her. But I only spent 5 years with David, and they were probably the happiest 5 years of my life.
Wow.
But at the time that we met, I was taken aback with his looks. Of course, that's always a good place to start. And he admitted to me later that he was taken aback by my Rolex.
Wow.
Neither one of us was particularly enthralled with the fact that we turned out to be gay. David had a hang-up ever since his teenage years with the fact that he was probably gay, and he would have become an interior designer if it weren't for the great stigma attached to that occupation.
Wow.
And therefore decided to become a landscape architect instead, and was doing quite well in his landscape architecture business.
Wow. This was the
Many of us believe that it may be infectious.
This is the first article, the first time, it was in 1981 in the New York Times. It's the first time that it appeared in the news. The first time that it was ever mentioned. They did not call it AIDS, HIV yet at all. And yeah, this was the moment, right? This was the moment that it happened, that people started to talk about it. And what's interesting about this film, and we're gonna watch about half of it, and then we're gonna watch the rest next time. And I know it's very heavy, right? It's intense. But that's life, right? Like, that what I don't think they do here, because they focus on these stories of these people. I've seen this before, of course, and I don't think they talk about the genesis of the quilt, which is weird, right? But I know about it, and I can tell you this much now, and I'll tell you more next time. I know, Kirsten, like, being afraid to do what you love, right? To select a career. I mean, the world has changed a lot, and some things for good, some things not for good, you know, but, like, the fact that, like, a person who is gay can, like, do what they want for a job, like, like, if you try to argue with me that that's, like, bad, like, I just don't think you're gonna win me over on that, you know. He wanted to be an interior designer. He would have been brilliant, right? This guy, probably. He went into landscape architecture because he couldn't do that. It's insane. We're really in a different place. But they don't talk about how the quilt happened, and I'll tell you more about that next time when we watch the rest of this. But I can say that it was Cleve Davis started the quilt. He had a friend that died, and I'll show you some images. That's what I'll do next time. But there was a march, a candlelight vigil, right around this time. This 1981 article came out in New York and California. They did a candlelight vigil in San Francisco, and they held placards with the names of the people in their community who had died. And they walked all the way to this monument, this, like, I don't know, some monument in some park. I'll figure it out. I mean, I'll look it up before we meet again. And they posted the names on that memorial in that park. And Cleve Jones said that he looked at it, and it looked like a quilt to him, because all of these placards were, you know, posted on this thing, and it looked like a quilt to him, looked like patchwork. And that's how it all started. It was either 81 or 82, something like that. And you know, the things that I've read about this, I mean, people would look. One man said that he stood on a corner in San Francisco, on one corner, and he would look around at the neighborhood where he was, and he could point to all these apartments that were empty because the men who lived there had died. You know? So.
That it may be a new mutant type of virus, a cytomegalovirus that has mutated and is spreading through these individuals, suppressing their immune system and setting them up for these events. But that's just a theory at this period of time.
I don't know how I got it. I fit the profile, kind of the typical capsis patient in my age, and that I'm gay, but I don't know how I got it.
So far, doctors have only documented 60 known cases among gay men, so it is by no means an epidemic. They are concerned that it is attacking heavily in the gay community, and they're working on theories to explain why. In San Francisco, Linda Yee, News Center 4.
Do we know for certain what causes it? No. Do we even know whether it's a virus, bacteria, or what?
There are a lot of theories, but at this point, we know nothing for certain.
This is 81, 82.
Now, if we don't know how to cure it, it must be spreading like wildfire.
Yes, they're growing at an exponential rate.
Among the victims is Bobby Campbell. The San Francisco resident describes himself as the AIDS poster boy.
For me personally, I've had fungal infections, I've had warts, I've had stomatitis, which is an infection of the mouth, so serious that I would not be able to eat, would not be able to talk, and I have cancer.
Bobby Campbell was the 16th person in San Francisco to be diagnosed with this mysterious disease. A nurse himself, he understood the importance of getting out the warning about this new health danger. But despite the efforts of those like Bobby Campbell, to most people, AIDS remained a very distant sort of threat.
Okay. 1981. The numbers will blow you away. So 335 Americans have died in 1981. Watch how it grows. It's terrifying. In one year, I mean, yeah.
For years, I've been wanting to have a child, and I've been in discussion with several other gentlemen about having a baby and just trying to be picky and with who and what involvement. And Tom founded the Gay Games, and I became a member of the board. We were both gay. We became best friends. And when I thought about it, I thought there could be no better man. So I decided to take the chance and see if Tom liked children, number one, and then start with that, and which is what we did on the bridge coming back home. We were in his little Alfa Romeo. I said, "How do you feel about kids?" And he went, "Oh, nice driving." Because I love kids. I've always wanted to have a child. I said, "Tom, how would you like to have a child with me? You're wonderful. You're athletic. You're smart. You're a doctor. My mother would have no complaint. Everything a Jewish mama would ever want for a husband." And he says, "You kidding?" I go, "No." And he starts turning, and that's when the car started on the bridge. I said, "Wait a minute. Look at the road." He was just so happy. If you would have seen his face, and that warm, sensitive man, it was everything that I would want for my child to grow up with. And that moment, I felt this would be truly a little all-American family. Well, this was a community event. I mean, everybody's been waiting for this child, especially Tom and I. And the baby...
Whoop. Hang on. Okay, hang on. What's going on? Okay.
Comes out, 1, 2, 3, and I hear the crying, and it was wonderful. And all I know is here's Tom, he's looking at the baby, and they're all just surrounding this little baby. And he says, "It's a boy!" I just remember my doctor looking at her and says, "Dr. Tom, this is a girl. You just looked at the umbilical cord." And I just laughed. I thought it was a little Nathan. And there went little Jessica.
Oh my God. It's been an emotional night, no? That grandma quilt earlier, and
There were
then...
many times I would be asleep at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and little guy would come to the side of my bed and shake me, and I'd try to open my eyes and be civilized, and he'd say, "Mom, I gotta bleed." So we would grope our way to the kitchen, and I would set up for what is called an infusion. And you just hope to hell you get that needle in the vein the first go. And it's always a question, how many times do I have to stick him before I get it in? And please, God, let me not increase his pain. After the actual infusion was over, it was not easy for him to sleep. He would get bleeds in his ankles, and the joint would swell. So painful that he could not even bear the weight of a sheet on that joint. He would approach me with a request, like, "Can we take the training wheels off my bike?" So he has to realize and accept,
Look at those
I may
bruises.
have to pay the price.
Right.
I may have a bleed. I may end up with an infusion. I may end up with a joint that's hurting.
I felt it was important for David to have as much freedom and abilities of his own without us interfering and putting restrictions on him so that he could have a normal life. I think it was very important to David in his mind to be as normal as possible.
He went through programs, he went through detox, and he did well for a little while, and then he'd slip. When you're going through it, it's painful. When you look at it back, you think of how much worse it could have been. I mean, he was his caringness protected me. Yeah.
You know, one thing that this film does so well, right? Just like Nori said, so many beautiful stories, and they focus on these like 6 stories. But there's, you know, I mean, like I told you before, there was this backlash, right, to the AIDS quilt, and that's an interesting context to put it in. But there's also something that, you know, that is missing a little bit from this, and maybe we'll get to some of it at the end. I think we actually do. I mean, when they first put the quilt out on the lawn in DC, they actually did it 2 times. The pictures that you've probably seen. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. I mean, I'm going to show you AIDS quilt, Washington, you know, mall, yeah. The pictures that you've seen are probably from the second time that they did it. The second time that they did it was this time. And I mean, it went on and on and on. But the first time that they did it, yeah, I mean, this is what we're talking about. So, yeah, I jumped ahead a bit. But I mean, you know, 335 people, yeah, died the first year, or 335 people were recorded to have passed away. But you know, this is the biggest quilt that's ever been made, right? By a lot. And yeah, it's a quilt. It's part of our world, right? And yeah, knowing about it, I think, and remembering, which is what the quilt's for, is important. And it's interesting in the time of COVID, thinking about the AIDS quilt, you know, this sickness, people didn't know what it was scary, what was going on, you know, the CDC in this case finally came in, you know, and the CDC came in with COVID. But I mean, you know, there's so much confusion when a new disease arrives, and then people get educated, right?
He didn't let me hurt.
We're gonna go till 25 minutes in, and then I'm gonna sign off because we've been on 2 hours and you probably have things to do.
He didn't take my furniture out of my house. He didn't rob me. He didn't rob anybody. You know, the only person he ever hurt was himself. And it was a struggle for 5 years until after our daughter was born. Rob wanted to be the best father that he could, and he was just so nurturing and caring about his daughter. He bathed her, he washed her, he took her for walks, he rolled in the stroller, he changed diapers. That wasn't a problem. I don't like diapers. He didn't mind it. And she was so attached to him. Her daddy this, her daddy that. I think that's when he realized he had to change. I felt great when he was drug-free. I was so proud of him. And when he was drug-free, I said, all the bad stuff was going past and all the good stuff could then start. You know, not just the love, but the building.
The disease called AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, sounds less than deadly, more like a diet pill. AIDS has struck only a reported 1,500 people, but it has killed almost 600 of them. And as yet, no one with AIDS has been cured.
Puzzling new disease has appeared the past couple of years that is spreading rapidly among homosexuals, and it is a disease that is fatal.
From an epidemic point of view, there have been more deaths from Kaposi sarcoma and pneumocystis pneumonia than have occurred with all the cases of toxic shock syndrome and the Philadelphia outbreak of Legionnaire's disease combined.
In this disease, many people feel lies the secret to what causes cancer in general. Why is the NIH dragging its heels so?
You are raising the possibility that people are dismissing it because it strikes mostly the gay community?
There is no question in my mind. If this were happening to you and the white, straight, middle-class community, it would have been attended to a long time ago.
Congress wants to know what to do about AIDS. Victims of the disease say the government has done nothing and has no plan to. Committee members were told that victims are often gay men or IV drug users, groups already discriminated against. This witness, a victim from San Francisco.
This is not a political issue. This is a health issue. This is not a gay issue. This is a human issue. And I came here today in the hope that my epitaph would not read that I died of red tape.
Okay, So that is a famous line. It's where we're going to stop it for tonight. And that's a really, really famous panel on the quilt. I think his name was Robert Lyon, AIDS quilt panel, red tape. I mean, this is one of the panels that, I mean, it's very famous. Hang on. Hold on, I'll get that back. Yeah, I came here today. So he was testifying in front of Congress. Oh, I just hate that. Hang on. That's what he just said, right? I came here today to ask that this nation, with all its resources and compassion, not let my epitaph read it. He died of red tape. You know, and COVID got more attention, right? I mean, it happened to everyone. You know, it's really true. He had a point, right? So the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna watch this, which is 2 minutes. And I queued it up because earlier I talked about how, recently I talked about how there was this backlash. And to give you an idea of what that meant. Oh, good. Kirsten, good. You got it. You got it. The last thing, so this is it. If you can stick around for this. I want to show you, this is a trailer for a documentary that is amazing. It's called United in Anger, and it's a history of ACT UP. Okay. ACT UP is the activist organization that did so much. You'll see about it. And it was ACT UP. It was some people within ACT UP who were really kind of anti the AIDS quilt project. Okay, so we're gonna watch this, and then I'm gonna probably eat more chips. Okay.
Living in New York at that time was like crazy because people are getting sick every day. 3, 4, 5, 6 people that you hear about being sick.
We were very scared that the Reagan administration was going to put people with AIDS in internment camps. And I think that we came close to that in this country.
How deeply are Americans worried about AIDS? A Los Angeles Times poll found that 50% of Americans favor quarantine for AIDS victims. 15% said AIDS victims should be tattooed.
It was about people in power not caring about the lives of people who didn't have power.
Kramer delivered a fiery speech, and
we saw him earlier.
He asked like half of the audience to stand up, and he said, "You're all going to be dead in 6 months. Now what are we going to do about it?"
AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. We are a diverse, nonpartisan group of individuals united in anger and committed to direct action to end the AIDS crisis.
Release those drugs! Release those drugs!
When we're activists, when we really act up, we have a big impact, and we get what we're demanding, and when we're silent, we don't.
We'll never be silent again! Act up! We'll never be silent again! Act up!
It was where I really got a sense of community.
I got the feeling then that people felt that lives depended on that.
Healthcare is right! Healthcare is right! Act up! Fight back! Fight
These drug companies are profiteering on our lives, and that we cannot accept that anymore.
So, yeah. People are in the street, people, very activated there. And they thought the quilt was kind of no, not everyone, but some people thought the quilt was just not loud enough, basically. Very interesting context. Thank you so much. Oh, I love being here with you. If you liked this show, subscribe, because then you get a notification when I go live. If you liked hanging out here, let people know. It's really gonna be word of mouth, I think, that gets the folks in here, and then the chat just blows up. And thank you, Nori. I mean, I really thank you for coming. And I'll see you next time. I'm always on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Central Time. And then this was really nice. Hey, Dana, you're welcome. And so I think Saturday night's kind of a fun time to do this. I'm gonna stream again tomorrow. I am. And my hardcore people, if you don't show up, it's okay. You don't have to come every time, but I really hope you do. But I'm going to try Sunday. I'm going to try these different times to see how people do. But thanks so much. We'll come back to this, and yeah, you guys are the best. Okay. Where's my button to do the thing? Okay. Good night.